Hi, I'm Julia and this is my shed. So today we'll have a little bit of a break from the valve gear. I don't have so much time this week because I had to go to a wedding at the weekend, so I thought I'd just have a slight diversion and look at the lubricator setup. So what I wanted to actually do is explain a bit about the lubricator design that's used by Modelworks. It's actually quite a well-known design, and you can still buy the kits for it to this day. So I thought I'd explain a bit about it because it's quite an interesting design, and then I'll explain what I'm going to do with the Britannia in this particular case. On the Britannia kit, the lubricators weren't provided fully assembled like this. This is actually a Ewins lubricator that I managed to buy from eBay, but in my kit, which isn't complete, the lubricator came as lots of parts, and I've got most of the parts. The most obvious one is that I'm missing the bodies, which is a bit annoying because that's quite a difficult part to make. It's a cast part, and a few small detail parts of the internals. But I've actually got quite a lot of the parts, so probably in the future I will use these parts to make up some lubricators. If that's something you'd be interested in seeing, let me know. So a little bit of history. When sort of mechanical lubricators were first used in model locos, quite often they would use this sort of design. So luckily enough, I've just got the innards of one here. So on the outside we have a ratchet wheel. If you remember I did a video on Caterpillar fitting a lubricator, and that had this sort of idea where you have a lever going backwards and forwards and moving a ratchet pawl, so over time this wheel would rotate. But on the inside, what we've effectively got is a very small oscillating engine, and that's just a little oscillating pump, and that would just pump a very small amount of oil for each rotation. But it's actually, if you look at it, it's actually quite a complex thing to make. There's a lot of parts and quite a lot of accuracy required to make those parts. But you've got a non-return valve here. I'm not sure where the inlet would be actually. Not that clear. But that's sort of the LBSC sort of style lubricator, as far as I know. So the Winson and Modelworks lubricators are based on a design which originates from a guy called Jim Irwin. I don't have a printout of his original articles, which are in Engineering in Miniature, but there's a couple of designs in Model Engineer used his design. So so this one's from Model Engineer 7th of December 2007, page 687, and this was the design for Penrose Grange, and this is actually a dual pump. It also existed in another design, Model Engineer 13th of August 2010, page 210, and this is for a single pump design. Now I've printed both of these out because if you buy, you can buy these kits from LiveSteam fittings. I'll provide a link in the video if I remember. And if you buy, they sell it. I believe they had some connection with Modelworks, whether it was a spin-off company from Modelworks, but that's still going today. And if you buy a lubricator from them today, this is basically what you get, something like this. And you'll notice it has a bottom feed. The Modelworks kits, on the other hand, have an elbow feed, and that's what we really need for Britannia. So I've got these two. Obviously they're different size. I didn't realise they were different heights. Oh, that's annoying. Oh, well, you probably won't notice. I might have to cut some off the top of that one. In fact, interestingly, there is a line there. So what's so good about the Ewins design then? So he came up with a couple of innovative ideas. So the first thing is he got rid of the ratchet wheels. So you'll notice if I just rock this backwards and forwards, there's no ratcheting sound at all. It's quite smooth, but the the oscillating action is turned into a rotary action. You can see that easiest on the front, really. And so how does he do that? How does this magic happen? Well, he does it with these things. Now, they might look like very small bearings, but actually these are roller clutches. And a roller clutch, you obviously you mount it like a bearing, so the outside is fixed. The inside has a close-fitting shaft. And basically the way they work is that you can rotate the shaft in one direction, but when it comes to the other direction, it locks up. So it just uses some clever geometry inside the bearing to do that. And these are quite reliable as long as you keep them clean. So they're quite. So that was the first innovation that Jim's design used. And the second one, it's quite hard to see on the drawings, but on the second one, the pump plunger basically goes through two rubber O-rings like this, and in between the O-rings is a spacer. So a very small, thin spacer, and basically the distance between the two sets of O-rings, which I can show you on. Let's just see on this drawing. So you have an O-ring here, an O-ring there, and in between is a spacer. And basically the gap between the two O-rings determines how much oil is pumped. The other nice thing about this design is there's only one non-return valve, which is this spring-loaded ball bearing here, and that seats up against the O-ring, so you get a very nice seal. So those things together combine to make a very reliable lubricator that works very well. And there's quite a few sort of people in the model engineering community really like these, and I say you can still buy them. So while we're looking at this drawing, you'll notice Jim's original design is the plunger has this sort of C shape. And basically what that is it's a Scotch crank, effectively, so that as this crank turns round, so you've got a crank pin there, it will go round and push this down, so it'll sort of move to the left and push it down, and then on the upstroke it will then pull the plunger up again. So we can actually see that on this Ewins designed lubricator. You've got the Scotch crank there, slightly different design, but it works in the same way. So again, that's like a C-shaped thing, which is quite a difficult part to make. If we then compare that to the more modern one, what they've done is get rid of that crank and just have a flat topped plunger, which obviously means that there's nothing to pull the plunger back up again. So I'm not sure if you can see in there, but there is actually a spring underneath the head of the plunger, so that as it gets to the bottom of its stroke and starts to come back up, a spring just helps it back up again. And that pops up quite quickly actually. Pop, like that. So that's again makes for a much easier to manufacture design, so that's quite clever. Yeah, so I thought you'd find that interesting, just a little aside as to different designs of lubricator. I do actually have yet another type, which I believe comes from Poly Models. Not sure how easy it is to see in there, but they use the one. Actually, no, they don't use a one-way crank. They get rid of the crank completely, and just have effectively like a crankshaft. So as this moves backwards and forwards, the pump plunger moves backwards and forwards. So, which is quite interesting, really, because what you've got is effectively a linear motion, a backwards and forwards motion, and that's what the pump needs. So they've gone, well, we don't need to convert it into a rotary motion in the meantime. So again, that's quite a clever idea. Again, very simple to manufacture. I'm not quite sure how what's in this area. Maybe they use the O-rings as well. The good thing about what I've got in my kit is I have got the mounting brackets, and I have got these spacers as well, which are used with the mounting brackets. I've got the drive arms for the valve gear, and I've got these. I'm not sure if I've got the pins for these, but we've got those as well. We've got most of the mounting parts, so what I'll do is I'll put those on the left hand side just to give you some idea of what it's going to look like. I think that would be useful, and we'll take it from there. So the first job is to mount the lubricator mounting bracket, and as you can see, if it's just mounted directly onto this casting, it's going to interfere with this. So Modelworks provide you with a little spacer, which I need to clean up, which fits there. That goes on there like that, but there's still very little clearance there. There's not much space for the oil port to come through this area, so it's basically got to come through here up to this this one-way valve on the steam inlet side. Okay, so that's the lubricator bracket in place. Let's just trial fit one of the lubricators. Okay, so that's just held in place with a couple of loose bolts at the moment. The clearance is very tight, so this actuating arm is getting very close to hitting here. So one thought I did have was to change the actuating arm. So this is the one that came with the kit. And it's basically the same size, but this is obviously cast, which is nicer. That gives you a better view. So we're going to have a lever driven off the valve gear here, which will be pushing this, and basically there needs to be a pipe coming up here through this gap and then to there. So I will need to make the pipe. I haven't got the pipe, so we'll add the actuating lever on here. So I'll move you again, I think. So this is the end of the trunnion that holds the expansion link, and we have a lever and a nut to go on there, so we can look at those. I think they go that way around. Oh, that's interesting. That appears to actually be threaded. Okay, so the pictures I've seen in this is just ahead of the slot, so I think that's in fairly well. I guess that just acts as a lock nut. There's not a lot of might have to add some Loctite to that, but yeah, so that's how that fits. And then obviously we then need a linkage that goes between the two. So we haven't really got all of the linkage parts. We've got these. We don't have the pins, and we don't have the rod that goes between the two. Now, looking at the drawing, the rods seem to be about the same size as this, but I think that might be a little bit small. Well, maybe not actually. Once they're in the end of these. So these are threaded M3. So I'm going to see if I've got any 3 or 4mm bar that I can use to make a rod from. I'll drive on that. It's quite loose actually, so it's got a bit of leeway, which is good because these do not line up vertically at all actually. So we'll go with that. So I'm going to thread, basically these are threaded all the way through, so I'm going to aim for threading into just the round section. We'll see how that works. So I've had a few comments about always running stuff in full speed, speeded up. So as these are quite simple, I thought I'd do the first one in real time, so it won't take too long. Just so you can get a feel for sort of the speeds I'm running things at. So we're just cleaning the ends of the bar up here, just from the original saw cut. That looks nice. And then we'll chamfer. Forgot to do is that this is a 4mm piece of bar, and we want a 3mm thread on it, so I need to cut it down to 3mm, zeroing off the DRO. In about 7mm there. Let's see what the diameter's looking like. It's 3.33. Pop that in the DRO and just drop it down to just a shade under 3. Again, just to do a spring pass because it's quite a flimsy piece of steel now. 2.91, that's lovely. You don't want it to be exactly 3 when it's a thread, because otherwise the threads are never that spot on with size. Put a slight chamfer on that, because again it's very delicate now. And that's the machining done for this end. And then we just need to tap thread on, so I'm just going to do that by hand, but with some support from the tailstop chuck. Okay, so what I tend to do is just rest the handle on the cross slide, and I can apply pressure with the tailstop handle whilst turning the chuck. As you probably saw, I tightened this up just by hand, and it's now starting to slip, so I need to just tighten that up a little bit more. So I've got some cutting oil, so I think we'll give it a quick splurge of that. That's better. Just back cut the swarf a bit, so we're getting some quite long things of swarf coming in. Back cut it. Cut it. So we're back, when I say back cutting, we're just backing the die off slightly just to break the chips. Otherwise you just get a very long chip and it tends to jam. It's not so much of a problem with mild steel, but with stainless those chips can be very very tough. They tend to be work hardened, and then they tend to tear up the threads. I've had that happen a few times recently. It's not much fun. Luckily that paintbrush I'm using is soaked in cutting oil, so it's doing double duty that. Okay, so that's up to the shoulder. I think we can move this out the way now. So what we will do is just clean up any high spots there. Seems pretty good. See how that looks. Perfect, that's exactly what I wanted. That looks great. That's nice, no shake at all actually. So we just need to do 4 more of those and we'll be ready. So I'll do those off camera. No point in boring you with all that. And then I'll bring you back once we've got them finished. Okay, so we've got our actuating rod made. So I'm just going to thread it into this one like that. Just pop that one off for a second. Come out one. So that's not quite vertical on this one, but should hopefully do the trick. So this is just being held in by friction at the moment. But I think the rod's the right size, so that's the most important thing. I can extend a few mil either way. What's happening at the moment is this is very tight fit, because this is at a slight angle. This is putting some twisting pressure on the arm, and we can perhaps ease the corners a bit just to remove any discrepancy, because basically from here to here we've got probably about a 5mm difference. I mean, we've got freedom on this side but not on this side. I think that's possibly what's causing the problem. Okay, so let's get to the bench and see what we can do with this operating lever. So I was able to remove this collar quite easily. It's just a 1.5mm grub screw, and just to show that basically that's one of the one-way clutches in there. Not sure if you can see it, but you can see there's no attachment to this at all. This rod, I can move it out a bit, but as you can see, by oscillating the lever you get some pumping, so that's good. So what we need to do now really is make it's not exactly the same length, but basically make the end of this look like that, so much a nice taper and a rounded end. So after engaging the brain for a few milliseconds, it occurred to me I could just use this lever by pressing in a one-way clutch. So I'm just going to bring it in a little bit closer. Hopefully you can see. So the clutch on has actually got a little arrow here and here showing the direction that it rotates in. So I'm going to pop one of these in. So it needs to match what the original lever had. So we'll press that. We'll try and press that in, I think. Don't know how easy that is to do. Will it just push in, do you think? No, that needs to be pressed in. Probably do that in the milling machine. Let's see what we can do. Okay, so I've mounted a 4mm shaft in the chuck, and the clutch is just pushed onto the shaft, and the back end of the clutch is pushing on the chuck jaws. So what I'm hoping is I can just use this just to push it on. Body breathe in. Oh, there you go. So hopefully that's done the trick. It's certainly gone in. Does it turn? Oh yes, it does. Does it clutch still? That's the question, isn't it? So the clutch is still working, so that's positive. So we've got the reoccurrence of a familiar problem here. I can't. This won't go any higher than this, so it can't go any further back. And because we've got it's actually touching here, so we've had that problem before on other bits of the valve gear where we haven't got clearance. So what I need to do is take a chamfer on this side. So if I mark that, it's quite a small piece, so I think I'll just do that in the vise with a needle file, and we'll see if we can get some better freedom of movement. Okay, so after a bit of fettling, I think we've got something working now. So what we had to do was remove a bit from this corner, and I've also had to, just on the valve slide bar, we were hitting there as well. So I've had to move this lever so that that's as far forward as it goes. But hopefully you can see that this is slowly turning. Okay, so now I've brought you so you can see this moving. So it's not moving fast. So that's pretty much good to go on this side. I need to make up a pipe next, so I might do that today. I've got a bit of time. Okay, so I've measured the distance I need in terms of pipe work with this bit of flexible wire. So I need to make 2 pipes this long. Obviously we'll be making them into a convoluted shape. I've got the fittings I need, which are all 1/4 40s. I had a bag with 4 of them in. So I'll put you on time lapse so you can watch me cutting these up, deburring them, and then hopefully silver soldering them. Okay, so that's the 2 pipes made, 1 for each side. Pretty happy with that, how those come out. This one looks a little bit light on silver solder, but it might be okay actually. I'm a bit heavy on these ones, but they all go through, so happy days. I might need to clean that up a little bit, but overall not too bad. So we'll get that installed and see what those look like. Okay, so that's the pipe fitted to the left hand side. You can see it's very tight in there. So that's the problem we've got to solve for the other side, is how do we get the lubricator to fit into such a small space. Using this arm has worked out really well. We've struggled a bit with clearance just here. And again, we had to do a little bit of a mod there, but overall that's come out pretty well actually. I'm quite pleased with how that's come together. I think this bracket's to hold the running boards later on, but that's quite a way away yet. So yeah, I think that's lubricator done for the left hand side. I've got a few options for the right hand side. I can modify that complete one that I've got somehow, or I could use the parts I've got to manufacture one to match that. So let me know what you'd prefer to see. Would you like to see me manufacturing a new body and a few other bits so that we can use the parts that we've got and save that commercial lubricator for another project? Yeah, let me know what you think. So I think we'll leave it there. I say I haven't got much time this week due to family commitments. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.